Today, we're heading to the rugged shores of Scotland's most famous loch to explore one of its most dramatic and, honestly, most iconic strongholds. We're about to uncover the thousand-year story of Urquhart Castle.
For centuries, this place wasn't just a fortress. It was more like a sentinel. Its position gave it absolute command over the vast, mysterious waters of Loch Ness and the super important waterway of the Great Glen. It was a strategic linchpin, really, the absolute key to controlling the Scottish Highlands. So how did this one rocky outcrop become such a critical spot? Well, as the guardian of Loch Ness, the castle's story is all about strategic power. So let's dive into its ancient origins and see exactly how it held that power for over 1,000 years. This timeline really gives you a sense of the sheer depth of history we're dealing with. The story starts way before the stone castle we see, with Pictish nobility. And get this, the very first recorded sighting of the Loch Ness monster actually comes from Saint Columba's visit right here in the 6th century. Kinda cool, right? From there, it becomes a key battleground in the fight for Scotland's freedom, and its military life ends not with a bang, but with a self-inflicted explosion, before it's finally preserved for us to explore today.
Okay, let's jump from the past to the present. I want you to imagine you're making your way to the castle today. Its location is just as stunning now as it was strategic back then, and just getting there is all part of the experience.
So, you could drive the winding A82 that just hugs the loch, or maybe take a convenient bus from Inverness. But honestly, if you can, approaching from the water is the way to go. So many would have seen it that way for the first time, and it really gives you a sense of the castle's absolute command over the loch. Before you even cross the moat, you're confronted by this absolute beast. This is a full-sized, working replica of a medieval trebuchet, and it is a stark, immediate reminder that this beautiful ruin was once a place of brutal warfare, built to withstand the most powerful weapons of its time. And what's wild is the sheer power this thing represents. They've actually tested this replica, and it can launch a huge boulder over 200 yards at 126 miles per hour. Just imagine the terror of seeing that hurtling towards you. It gives you this really visceral sense of what a siege must have felt like. All right, with the threat of that trebuchet behind us, let's try to make our way to the castle entrance. To get inside, you'd have had to overcome a pretty formidable series of defenses, all designed to stop an entire army in its tracks. This is basically a masterclass in medieval defense. First, there's a massive ditch carved right out of solid rock. Then, a drawbridge. If you somehow made it past that, you'd face a huge gatehouse with a heavy iron gate, the portcullis, that could slam shut and trap you. And while you're trapped, defenders could drop boiling oil, rocks, or worse, from murder holes in the ceiling right above you. It was a deadly, multi-layered trap. And this right here shows you why those defenses were so necessary. For centuries, Urquhart was a prize that all the most powerful players in Scotland wanted. It was captured by England's Edward I, reclaimed by Robert the Bruce, raided again and again by the powerful MacDonalds, and finally granted to the Grand Family. This place was in a constant state of conflict. So you'd think its military life would end in some glorious battle, right? Nope. It ended with a strategic demolition. In 1692, the government soldiers stationed here held out against a Jacobite siege. And when they left, they packed the gatehouse with gunpowder and blew it to pieces. They wanted to make absolutely sure this powerful stronghold could never be turned against the crown again. And that is why the entrance is the ruin you see today.
Now that we're inside the castle walls, let's look beyond all the battlefield tactics. Because this was a home, a center of power, and a bustling community. So what was life actually like for the people who lived here? The Great Hall, this was the social and political hub. Just picture it, a massive hall with a timber roof filled with music, huge feasts, and the lord holding court. It was all about displaying wealth and status. Today, you can walk through the stone cellars that were underneath it, and the walls that are left give you a fantastic sense of its scale, not to mention an incredible view. And the guests weren't just local lords either. This really underscores the castle's national importance. In 1342, the Great Hall hosted King David II, who was the son of the legendary Robert the Bruce. Talk about a VIP guest list. That tells you everything you need to know about Urquhart's status back in the day. So, what would a king eat here? Well, the diet was a mix of the basic and the luxurious.
Staples were oat-based, of course, but the lords enjoyed plenty of game. They even had a stone and dovecot for a steady supply of pigeons. But here's a fascinating little detail. Finds show that the castle's elite actually preferred expensive imported cod from the North Sea over the fresh salmon and trout swimming right there in Loch Ness. I guess even then, showing off with rare food was a status symbol.
Life here wasn't all feasting, though. The threat of raids was constant, and it all came to a head in the single most devastating attack in the castle's history, the Great Raid of 1545. When the MacDonalds swept through, they didn't just come for a fight. They came to strip the place bare, and it started with 2,000 cattle.
But it didn't stop there. The scale of this plunder was just staggering. Look at this list. 3,000 sheep, all the other livestock, every piece of furniture, all the food, the cannons, the boats. They even pried the iron locks off the doors. This wasn't just a raid. It was a calculated move to utterly humiliate the Grants and cripple the fortress. It was the ultimate show of disrespect. Despite huge setbacks like the Great Raid, the Grants rebuilt, and they made the castle even stronger. The centerpiece of their new, more modern fortress is our final destination inside the walls, the magnificent Grant Tower. This tower was basically a castle within a castle. It was the private, more comfortable home for the Grant family, with big windows and fireplaces. But it was also designed to be the ultimate stronghold, a place they could defend even if the rest of the castle fell. It is, by far, the best preserved part of the ruins you can see today. And making your way to the top is an experience in itself. You climb this tight, winding spiral staircase that's built right into the thick stone walls, passing what would have been the Lord's private hall and bedrooms. With every single step up, the anticipation builds for the view that you know is waiting. And here it is, the reward. From the top of the Grant Tower, the strategic genius of this location becomes crystal clear. You have an unbroken, panoramic view up and down the entire 24-mile length of Loch Ness. You can see for miles. No boat could move, no army could march without being seen from this exact spot. This view is why this castle was fought over for 500 years.
After the garrison left in 1692, the castle's days of war were over. But its story continued. It just transformed from an abandoned fortress into the icon that we see today.
So, after the gatehouse was blown up, nature started to take over. A huge storm in 1715 brought down a big section of the Grant Tower. Over the next century, it became the perfect romantic ruin, a favorite subject for artists and writers. Finally, in 1913, it was passed into state care to make sure it was preserved. And today, it stands as one of Scotland's most beloved landmarks, welcoming over 500,000 people a year. Urquhart Castle has been so many things: a Pictish fort, a medieval battleground, a noble home, and now a majestic ruin. It has witnessed saints, kings, and maybe even a legendary monster. Its stones hold 1,000 years of stories, each one waiting to be discovered. So the real question isn't just what happened here, but what story will you find in its stones?